All right, everyone. Welcome to I.A.M's second webinar. We have a guest speaker. His name is, I call him Dr. Mew. He is actually one of my ambassadors at CSRS. He's working on developing our Principal Investigators Academy course, along with many other things. And he's also a study coordinator as well. So we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say today. It looks like he's going to be talking about workforce readiness and community-based research education. And we're excited to have him as our second guest speaker for I.A.M Research and Wellness Foundation. It's a new organization. We're excited to bring about new events, webinars, and those types of things. And we're hoping to, have some new things coming out soon this year, but slowly but surely we're getting our brand and our name out there. But we want to start off by educating the community with individuals like Dr. Mew. So he's bringing in his area of expertise, and he's going to tell us all about how to be prepared for a workforce and what he thinks is important for community-based research education. So, Dr. Mew, I will let you take the floor, and I will stop talking.
Thank you, Alicia, for your kind and warm introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mugilraj Sekar. You guys can call me Dr. Mugil or Dr. Mo. I'm a lead clinical research coordinator with GM Clinical Research Boston, and also I'm a CSRS ambassador, helping Alicia on preparing the principal investigator material. And today we're going to talk about workforce readiness and community-based research education. I want to start with that number 7. For every experienced clinical research coordinator in the United States who is actively looking for work right now, today, there are 7 job openings waiting to be filled. 7. In a field that requires specialized training, regulatory knowledge, and a clinical experience, the pipeline is not producing enough people. We are not keeping up the pace that how many job posts out there. Now, the trial activity in the United States is growing at about 12% per year. The workforce is growing at 9. That 3-point gap compounded year over year has created a shortage that is now affecting real participants, affecting clinical research growth, as well as the patient safety, as well as bringing out that includes new oncology drugs or new vaccines for new variant of COVID, anything, number of things that you can count of. 8% of clinical trials are delayed. The leading reason is not about the funding, not about the science is not growing, not about the regulation. It is the recruitment and staffing. Patients waiting on cancer trials, rare disease trials, trials for conditions that have no approved treatment. The bottleneck is people. And the third number, the one that should keep us all up night, is the replacement rate. Nationally, turnover among clinical research professionals reached as high as 61% during the pandemic years. The estimated cost to replace a single clinical research coordinator, $50,000 to $60,000, not counting lost productivity. Sites spend 2 years emptying their own pipelines, and we are still rebuilding. We do have workforce crisis in clinical research. It is not a future problem, but it is every single people who are coming out from high school senior graduates, or people want to get into research field. People want to know about health sciences, but they have lack of guidance in what all the clinical research careers that are available for them to pick or choose or to step into. For example, let's say a person want to get into clinical research, but they ended up being a medical assistant without knowing what they have to get into. They do exact role as a clinical research coordinator, collecting blood specimens, processing the samples, or tracking all the data records that are sending out or coming into the hospital records. That's what exactly the basic requirement for a clinical research coordinator for oncology trial or any trial sites. So that is what we are going to talking about today, or we're going to learn about more what all the basic needs for an entry-level candidate to get into a clinical research career or clinical research pathway, and what they need to keep in their mind before they make a step or approach someone at the site level, and why workforce readiness matters in 2026. So let me be more specific about the problem because it tends to get oversimplified. Clinical research workforce shortage is usually three separate problems laid on top of each other. The problem one, access. Problem two, awareness. Problem three, alignment. All these three things complex together, and these three problems lead to workforce shortages. And apart from these three things, and there are other factors that increase the complexity, increase the need for new research career people to get into the field. One, the increasing complexity of the clinical trials. Now, before it used to be a case report form, electronic data capturing system, and a monitor-based system. But now it used to be 10 different systems or 10 different softwares that get included in the site for each different study. For example, if a site has 15 different trials, each 15 different trials has different sponsors, and each different sponsors has their own IRB platform, has their own randomization platform, has their own e-diary platform. It increases the complexity of the clinical trials. And next, competency. Oncology and specialty trials demand high competency. It increases more, it needs more, what to say, more demand from the high competency professionals like clinical research coordinator. They tend to work more hours in the clinical. Each protocol has different study specific schema or study specific activities that demand high competency from a clinical research coordinator. At the same time, the integrity, the workforce grab impact in data quality and patient safety, which means if a clinical research coordinator tend to quit the job, and when a new hire joins or a person from different site or person that has no prior experience in the clinical research get into a new site, he tends to overwhelm with different data, and he doesn't have any idea about what the patient was previously in and what happened with the patient's chart before that, if he has to update any new informations and apply learnings. What we learned or what we get in kept in our mind during our school programs or during our college programs, that's totally different from the operational part of the clinical research studies. Learnings are applied back, ensuring continuous refinement and progress. But apart from the learning, there are more that a new clinical research coordinator or new clinical research professional should be trained on. That is why we are here to get them more information about clinical research career, where to start from, and how to make a progress, how to get networking with different site directors or clinical research professionals that provide them some information about what they exactly should look for. And our next step, the real workforce grab. Plan the approach. As I said, academic preparation is not equal to operational readiness. When you get into the field, you'll be amazed with the different workflow approaches and overwhelmed with each individual, the timeline that took for each patient at the site level, and limited exposure to regulatory workflows. If you're preparing for a clinical research career or that you had a biology background in your place, you know what all the medical term means, or you have some idea about how the healthcare works, but you don't have any exposure to regulatory workflows. That includes what does IRB means, what does FDA do when they come for audits, and why are we documenting all those records related to patient-related data or patient safety issues, and as in the form of protocol deviation, you don't have any knowledge or any exposure to regulatory exposure. That's where we should try to make them understand why exactly it needs to train them on specific entry-level career related requirements and also minimum training and documentational standards. They do get, for example, as a high school senior, you do get trained on how to get signature from your parents in a progress report. That's a form of documentation standards, but we need to train them on why they are doing that and which we can quote as an example in the future training logs. Why PI documentation or PI signature at the end of the case report form is important, and what whenever we make a change in the case report form, a PI need to make attestation in the form of signature or in the form of acknowledgement that the change was observed by the PI. We can make them understand why it is important for each and every documentation in a clinical research, and they usually mention a code. If there is no documentation, it doesn't happen or it didn't happen. And my journey into clinical research, I did my Doctor of Pharmacy back in India, and then I was a pharmacist for a while. But from the beginning, I had more interest in clinical research. So I explored my option, and as a pharmacist, I transitioned my career into oncology trials, where my hospital had the oncology roles, and it was very exciting. And after a year of journey, I evaluated my choices, and I wanted to get more in depth into regulatory affairs in a pharmaceutical side. So I tend to get masters in regulatory affairs. I explored my career opportunities and evaluated my choices. And before getting into regulatory side of a pharmaceutical company, I want to touch base with the patients, how this ethnicity group or how this population handles and look at the clinical research. Now I'm a lead clinical research coordinator. I always say document commitments and ensuring accountability and taking responsibility is what a clinical research coordinator should have. And roadmap foundation elements. What does research study actually mean? If you want to get into a site or if you want to get into academic institution or a hospital to get into a clinical research field, you should know about the term GCP and ICH literacy. It's not a difficult term, or when you go through the GCP good clinical practice document, you will get plenty of informations, but you most of the time you don't understand at the first time what you are reading or what exactly means. Some terminology says Belmont report or Helsinki's explanation. You won't get any idea about what it happens there or why a lot of rules and regulations are brought into clinical research to make sure a patient is safe in the clinical trial. We are not hurting them. But you need someone to explain you why it actually matters. For that, you need to get into a site like shadow a clinical research coordinator or be a volunteer in a clinical research site or do some volunteer activities online, helping create the material that gives you a lot of exposure on what you need to know to design or to shape your career path towards a clinical research careers. And again, clinical research coordinator is just a first step. There are plenty of other careers available in clinical research roles. If you're interested in data, there's a separate data research data coordinator role. If you're interested in documentation, or if you more tend to grow towards regulatory side, there is a regulatory coordinator role. So it's not just about clinical research role, but all of those roles need a basic requirements or basic qualifications or a basic understanding that you need to show them. That starts from GCP. That's your first achievement or first goal that should be achieved, or the certification that you should get yourself, that if you're interested in clinical research path or goals. And the next, protocol interpretation skills, which is really a big deal in clinical research. Some protocols will be start with 170 pages. Some protocols start with 250 pages, 300 pages. All you should know is how you read it, or how you the efforts that you make to understand a protocol. As a clinical research coordinator myself, it'll be overwhelming when I already have two different studies on my head. I'll be having one more studies that is going to add in my plate. So how I remember all those study schema or a schedule of activities if two studies look similar to each other. For example, phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine trial sponsored by Moderna or Pfizer. They do both of their protocols or schema of activities look alike. So you should have a plan or a checklist that you can keep or you can read or go through weekly once to make sure you're up to date. And it all just a beginning. So once you get into clinical research, every day you will learn something different. Every day you will learn something new. It's not mandatory that you should be having all these skills before you join. But there are basic requirements, the understanding of GCP, the documentation principle, and showing integrity and being honest if you make any mistakes related to patient safety. Reporting is the most important criteria. The responsibilities, most of the sites or most of the manager or most of the site director look for. And why community-based research education is critical. Early exposure to research careers. If a high school senior, if we go to them and ask, do you know about clinical research coordinator? He'll be having no clue about or no idea about what does that mean. So that's our responsibilities as a leader, as a site, as a clinical research professionals to let them know or shape them from the beginning to identify their interest in clinical research or identify their potential about what they can do or how they can be a good candidate for the site or how can they be a good clinical research professional in the future. Explain, provide them a flyer or provide them information about early clinical career roles. If they want to be a clinical research coordinator, they can start doing understand about GCP from their high school, not about reading entire GCP guidelines or protocols, just to get to know about what good clinical practice means. What is Belmont report? What is ICH means? And what is different from GCP guidelines, from ICH E6, from FDA 21 CFR parts. So all the practical simulation that help them set clear, measurable objectives that align with their strategy, help them if they shows interest in a clinical research career, explain them about the case report forms. And there are a lot of other platforms that are available as a electronic clinical research forms that starts with CREO. They are like major clinical research platform provider, and they have the basic trial saying how to fill out the clinical case report forms, how to document everything, and what are the complexity, what are the difficulty that the people or new clinical research coordinator that face during. They'll provide obvious training on how it all goes, and providing the high school senior or graduate in biology student, providing them, exposing these informations to them, it really improves their interest in the clinical research if they are struggling with what career path they have to choose. And task breakdown, shadowing and mentorship. A lot of people now, they don't actually know about there are different platforms or that include starting from ACRP, CCRP, and RAPs. They do provide mentorship options. It's not about money, how much you have to pay them to get the membership. There are a lot of free options that you can enroll and join and request them for mentorship. A lot of professionals willing to mentor you or guide you on how you can shape yourself to be a better clinical research professional. Or if it's not working for you, and get into a nearby site or hospitals, or if you try networking out to start a shadowing program. Or if, as a clinical research professional, if we are creating a cohort program, we can do all these steps to make a candidate uh, he can be a better candidate for early clinical research roles or entry roles, giving them exposure about GCP certification, help them obtain a GCP certification, set up practical simulations on providing him electronic case report form to fill out, providing a duplicate subject, and ask them to fill out the forms or ask them to provide a simulation experience on gathering information from the subjects and helping them learn a protocol analysis, analyzing the protocols and taking specific information from the protocol that are necessary for the trials and teaching them how to handle a protocol and how to handle a deviation, how to report, how to uh, differentiate a major and minor PD and help them how to report that to a IRB, framing all the emails that has to be sent to a monitor. Most of the sites right now, most of the early clinical entry level clinical research coordinators or CRC1, they don't do direct email to a monitor. It's a system, it's the site's SOP, but helping them frame an email and share that to a study manager or the CRC or who handles emailing medical monitor, that really help them shape their career towards a betterment. And dependency, bridging academic industry experience. Academic research and industry research sort of they're total different atmosphere. Like most of the academic research are like a PI initiator, like investigator initiated trials, and industry research or sponsor initiated trials, and letting the early career people know about what's the difference and where they can get more exposure to the trials is important to shape their careers too. And this understanding will help them to go where they want to. And timeline, if exposure starts late, preparation starts late. If we don't provide detailed information or what a specific, if we don't provide any exposure to the early career, what I'm saying is for the high school seniors or a college graduate, the undergraduate who just got out from a biology major, if we don't provide them what are the career roles available in clinical research and what are the steps that they have to make, the preparation starts late. If they are interested in the clinical research, if we identify them when they are doing their program or when they are in a high school program or when they are in the undergraduate program, if we provide them these detailed items and provide exposure about the clinical research career, and they'll be ready to workforce, that whenever they graduate they'll be having more knowledge or more experience on how to handle things, and it'll be very easy for the sites or easy for the students or the early career people to get into a right choice. And the next slide, the practical skills that make you stand out. If you want to be a CRC, learn again how to read a protocol. That's all you can get from the mentor. You can ask them how you read out a protocol or how you approach a protocol, or you can network with any clinical research professionals out there, and there are plenty of ways that you can reach to them and ask them what's their approach to read a protocol and what's their method of remembering things, and that will help you a way lot, and that will provide you new approach or new standard to read a protocol. And source documentation standards, knowing about alcohol principles and knowing about the regulatory binder structure or communication, how to prepare for a monitoring visit, and knowing what is monitoring visit is more important than preparation. And knowing about what is AE versus SAE documentation. Those are all the practical skills that make you stand out when you want to become a clinical research professional. These are all like a basic key points that you can keep in mind, or you can prepare yourself that will make you stand out in the interviews. And institutional and industry partnership. Hospitals and universities, they do have a lot of research studies upcoming. And if you are really interested, you can try to reach out to them and try to share with them, provide asking them for a volunteer opportunity that assist with all the assistant roles, handling patients when they're incoming, scheduling their activities, and those internship pipelines started from their community colleges or when they are in their high school about to graduate, providing them shadowing opportunities or asking them to check for the internship pipelines that are available in each hospital side or university side or pharma company side. They can join those internship pipelines, which will make them workforce ready and that will give them a lot of exposure about what is actually a clinical research need. Action plan, set goal. Like when there are a lot of cohort programs on going on, a lot of research site director or research site professionals are conducting their own cohort programs, introducing you to what is GCP and letting you know about entire clinical trial action workflows. You can try to join the cohort programs or you can shadow the most important factor is if you can't learn just by reading all the theoretical knowledge helps you understanding what it means, but when you are in the operational side, when you are working, it doesn't matter. You should have uh, work work experience or shadowing experience or basic volunteer experience that will provide you more understanding than a theoretical understanding or theoretical knowledge. And getting GCP certified is a first step to get into a clinical research career. And before that, if you want to volunteer or shadow at a research site, that will bring you more understanding or more knowledge about clinical research operations and learning regulatory basics. That means what are the documentation that need for a site to initiate a trial that starts from DOA. What is DOA? Delegation of authority. And each research professionals or each site specific research staff has their own delegation duty that has to be performed. And that can only be performed by that specific staff. We can't someone can't interfere with their study related activities that could be a deviation, so knowing about the regulatory basic and networking intentionally, that gives you more exposure, that opens you a lot of gates and that provides you a lot of advices on what you should look for. And seeking mentorship, that's a great opportunity. That's how I came across a lot of people, a lot of mentors I have. They do share their feedback and they do guide me on how to shape my career path. And all those, and these workforce readiness and guidance help you in exploring a lot of career options. And and that's all about my presentation. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Mew. That was an excellent presentation. Before anyone asks questions, I kind of want to make a few comments. What I
Mm-hmm.
noticed is since I've been in the industry for about 5 years, there was something on your PowerPoint slide that says academic preparation doesn't necessarily mean you're ready for clinical research. And I think in this industry, that's kind of where the industry has failed a lot of individuals. And then a lot of people come into the industry thinking that whether they're a nurse or they have a bachelor's degree, master's degree, they think that it is equivalent to them getting into the industry and they know exactly what they're doing, they're qualified, and that is further from the truth because you have to understand that whenever you're getting into something new, it doesn't matter what kind of degree that you have, you're still going to have to relearn, not relearn, but
Yeah.
learn that system or learn the regulatory rules and the steps and protocols. You're really starting all over in your career. So there is I feel like a misconception or they're misguided in that way. And also, they have a tendency, they kind of want something for nothing. And a lot of times you have to invest in yourself. I don't care if it's money, I don't care if it's time or both. You're going to have to invest in yourself the same way you did in college, or else you're going to fail. This is a highly regulated industry, and sponsors and CROs cannot take a chance on anyone that is not trained very well. You don't know what you're doing because they're spending millions, if not billions of dollars on these trials and, the sites, so my goal at CSRS is to do the mentorship, but we're leaning more towards B2B, B2G organizations, but it still will bleed into B2C. You know what I mean? So investing in your career is a must because even as a
Yeah.
business owner, I've spent thousands of dollars getting things up and running. And sometimes whenever I come across individuals that want to get into clinical research, they're kind of like, oh my gosh, I got to spend $5,000 or 10. Yes, you do, because it's still a business model. It's still education. And if you do something wrong, it's going to cost you way more versus you spending 500, 10,000 or $15,000. It could cost you your career. And then you could get blacklisted or not hired on because you've been seen as someone that is not either compliant, you're not trained, and it's a lot of different other things. Also, to move on from that point, vendor experience with CSRS, if you all do not know, we have partnered with Creo. And yeah, we have an official partnership with Creo. And the reason for that was because there's a gap in this industry as far as vendor experience. Whenever we get into the industry, we know nothing about CTMS, EDC, regulatory e-source,
Yeah.
none of that. So whenever we partnered with Creo, it was an opportunity for us to integrate their platform, if you will, tech system into our educational model. So whenever people get ready to either start their own site, or if we have doctors that are coming on to be principal investigators, or like our academy, you're going to be very well aware of how those type of vendors operate, and you'll be very well educated. So whenever you get into the workforce, it reduces the amount of training time that the employers have to do, and it reduces the learning curve. You're not going to know everything going into the industry, but a lot of that will be reduced. And so that's one of the things that I felt like was important. So the education is key in a
Yeah.
lot of this, and then mentorship is key as well. So I just had to add a few points. I will ask anyone else. I don't see any questions in the chat, but you can unmute yourself and show your face if you will, if you have any questions, not cameras, but questions. And Dr. Mew, you can chime in as well.
Mm-hmm.
But anyone, do you have any questions or you want to add a comment?
Hi, Alicia. I'm
Hi.
Shruti Shankar Umapati. So I'm a student and I'm currently pursuing my graduate program in Masters in Clinical Research Regulatory Affairs. So, as you said, I have a very strong background because my undergrad is in pharmacy. And now I combine two, huge bridges of regulatory as well as clinical research and also has like Dr. Mu has mentioned, I had a cohort program. So, like to fit into the industry, as I'm going to start my early career phase in upcoming days, like I'm going to graduate in June. So, like, what would be the one thing that, I have to equip myself? Like, I'm doing certifications, I'm attending cohort programs, and also I'm extending a lot of my wings towards any kind of voluntary programs, anything of such kind. So, at that interest, I would like to ask one question, like to enter this community-based, research entire education thing. So what is the one thing that I have to do other than all these things?
First of all, thank you for speaking up, Shruti. And what you're doing right now, like participating in all the uh, webinars or networking with research professional, that gives you more resources, and it maybe it looks like when you're building network right now, you won't get a profit or you won't get any benefit results right away. But over the period of time, after a year, after 2 years, you still have the person in touch. If they have any openings or if they would like to point you out in the right direction, you'll definitely get that. So keep doing the networking. And other than that, and the clinical research field got more publicity after uh, 2025, after a lot of funding issues and after a lot of NIH
Yeah.
funding cut issues, Harvard issues, globally got more attention towards clinical research. More professionals are coming towards clinical research right now. So they will,
Yeah.
before it used to be, even if you're a diploma graduate or if you hold a diploma or if you're a 12th high school senior, you can get into a clinical research. That was a time that nobody has exposure about the clinical research. Now, the clinical field is evolving, and most of the sites or most of the people need experience and regulated people who has more experience and knowledge about the clinical research. And at the same time, there are openings for clinical research coordinators, or like each clinical research professional has 7 job listed that they can get
Mm-hmm.
into. But keep trying. And other than that, other than your cohort programs, try to understand about how a electronic case report form works. That is the most
Okay.
important for a site or any clinical research field, filling out
Okay.
electronic case report forms. Other than, since you mentioned that you have a master's in regulatory affairs and clinical research, you must be having idea about what is GCP and what is
Yeah.
FDA 21 CFR, what are the regulatory documents that they need. But you have all those knowledge, but what they expect is having a solid hand-on experience. So try filling out or try gathering all the documents and have a like a duplicate or fake patient. You fill out all the documents like an
Yeah.
experienced research coordinator that will shape you or get into the right door.
Yeah,
And
like as you said, sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Uh, as you said, like fake patients, like experience gaining from
yeah.
filling the patient's sheets, all the stuffs. Actually, I got an opportunity with Tufts Medical over here.
Hmm.
They offered a program, so there is a certification program in which you get to interact with the PA, the coordinators over there, and they are conducting this program as a virtual meet in which they are training the students with a virtual conduct of informed consent. So that I recently came across. So that was very much glorifiable, because since it was a very direct pitch experience in which I got to interact with all these professionals and I could get the advices from them directly. So I will, like, I'm training myself with all these things. Extra note has adding to you, like, other preliminary parts, like what are the things that I should be working on?
Alicia?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can try to answer that question. Another thing, as Dr. Mew mentioned before, is the hands-on experience is quite crucial. I know back in 2020, 2021, they were hiring like crazy, and it didn't even matter if you had experience or not, as long as you could actually articulate your transferable skills onto your resume, that was good enough. But now, again, it's such a highly regulated, and they've tempered down on hiring so many people without the hands-on experience. It becomes like a conundrum. But I think going to clinical research sites and seeing if you can actually volunteer at the site doing something. It could be, I don't know, it could be cleaning the floors, or I don't, doesn't matter what it is, but you could go to the clinical research sites, that if there's one near you, to see what they need help with. and just to let them know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is what these
Mhm.
are my goals. Is it possible that I can volunteer at your facility? And if so, what do you need help with? So you're going to have to go out door to door, essentially, and seeing who's going to say yes. It will take some time. I'm not sure where you're located, but if you're in an area like mine, there's nowhere to go. So, we're bringing clinical research here, and I have to build everything from scratch. However, the way I am building the infrastructure is we're getting pairing the hands-on training, if you will, virtually, and then once my site is open, it'll be a totally different ball game. But you're going to have to go to different sites and talk to different site managers to see if they will
Mhm.
let you, volunteer at the site doing something.
Yeah, that's a big,
Mhm.
take back for me today. I really like the program that offered. It's a last minute movement that I registered and I participated. Like a lot of things that, which I couldn't get through my books, textbooks, and all the stuffs I got to learn from this entire webinar. Thank you so much, Dr. Moo, and thank you so much, Alicia,
You're welcome.
for conducting this webinar.
You're welcome. We have
Thank
many
you,
more to
Shruti.
come. Go ahead, Dr. Mill.
Yeah. And keep trying, keep networking, Shruti, and you'll definitely get what you're expecting. And just stay updated on the standards, on stay updated and get to know about Creo. That is more important. Right now, Creo is getting more into all the sites, and you can count number of sites that have using electronic case report form or Creo as their source partner. So try to get an idea about Creo. You can search online. They have like a 7-day free trial. Try signing in, and you'll get more exposure and you'll get more information about that, and that experience and that certification will get you into a door, and you can make out a standout candidate in the interview. If you say that I'm certified in Creo, that's one different point that you will be providing from other different candidates.
So, Dr. Mia, I need to ask you something. Since we are partnered with Creo, we actually have access to their sandbox. So the thing of it is we're going to be exposing those that need hands-on training, like is
Mm-hmm.
it Saruthi, like herself. So whenever they're done, they can actually say, okay, I've got experience or been exposed to Creo. But as far as getting the training, I call it training, getting the certification, if you will, for each like e-source and study coordinator within Creo, I would think that I would actually need to have I think it's the API, like whenever the site is actually open
Mm-hmm.
and then they assign the training to the employees. How does that work? Now that part I'm not really for sure on, but we are going to be using Creo as our tech vendor once we have the site open.
uh, just like for a training basis you're asking, or what's your question again?
So, like, you're familiar with Creo, right?
Yes.
So, okay, the site has Creo. Did Creo
Mm-hmm.
actually issue any certification courses
Yes, they do.
to
Yeah.
you? Okay.
Creo does provide certifications, like whether you are partnered with a site, or it's not like a study specific certification. It's like overall Creo certifications. Once you go through the training module, once you complete all the trainings uh, that they have, you'll get a certification that will be unexpired one. So you can
Mhm.
have that in your resume, or you can mention it the LinkedIn. That will help you stand out as a different candidate.
Yeah, so like whenever we partnered, or I say we, but whenever I partnered with Creo, I actually had to go through their academy and take their
Mm-hmm.
courses. And some of the courses that I had to take, regulatory and a couple others, that way I'm able to say, hey, I can mention Creo, but I'm going to have to ask them, let's say whenever we're onboarding physicians or study coordinators, I need to ask them, like, even though I'm mentioning these things and, doing webinars, how are they going to be able to actually take the course and receive the actual certification from Creo? I'm almost thinking that they actually have to be an employee at a site that
Mm-hmm.
has implemented Creo. I guess that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah. So I don't think so. You have to be like an employer, but you need to make a subscription. Even if you're not employee, you're just a student. Once you get into Creo, there'll be an option. What's your role, or what's your department, or what's your organization? So if you're a college candidate, you can enter your university name and enter as a role student or a trainer, and you still need to pay to obtain a certification. But to get trained, you don't need to pay. If you are not focused on the certification, you just need to know what career workflow is, then you don't have to pay. Just get into a training section and complete the career source and check on how it actually is, like located the different options. But if we are focusing on the certification, then you should be tied up with an organization, or you should be an employee with a specific organization to get like the specific certification.
So yeah, you're right. So again, at CSRS, that's what we're going to be doing. I know, as I said, we have the sandbox, but this
Mm-hmm.
year, I'm going to say within the next few months, I'm just going to we call it an upgrade to the actual API, because at that point I can go in and assign somebody as the coordinator,
Yeah.
administrator, and the PI. So it's going to make a difference, but later on this year, that will definitely happen because we're in the process of training a doctor anyway. But enough of that. Suruthi, right? Do you have any
Yeah.
more questions?
No, that's all. And that's it. It was
Okay.
great, and I expected few quotations and about mobile clinics. Because I think has stated after 2025 the success rate of mobile clinics and the community is increasing. So
Yeah.
So it's not
uh,
about the mobile clinic. It's not like everything about the research or research participants, it goes through mobile. It's not like that.
okay,
So let's
okay.
say there is a year-long study, and each month the patient has to come into the clinic, or each month a PI or a study coordinator need to contact the subject for a follow-up. So instead of them coming in each every month, so the first month they will be coming in on the day when they are getting dosed. So there is a one more if they are in an immunogenicity subset, or if they are in a reactogenicity subset, there'll be a blood draw that is needed for the particular study. So they'll be coming in for that follow-up blood draw or a specific day. And rest of the things will be decentralized. They just need a mobile application. They will go in and enter if they are having any symptoms, or if they don't have any symptoms, they will enter no, so that we will get the alert or reminder that we will get into a mobile specific system to check on whether they have completed their weeks or months diary or a clinic app that they have completed, to check on how they are doing, instead of making them to come to the clinic. That will impact finance department of the site,
Oh,
or that will
like a
increase the burden of
sustained
the sponsor.
engagement.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Well, if nothing else, I thank everybody for coming and joining this webinar. We have more this week, at least one more, and then we have some more coming up in March. And also, if you're wanting to volunteer at I.A.M Research and Wellness Foundation, I've got the link in the chat. And then also, if you are wanting to become an ambassador, it's free. Then the link is there as well, and you can read more about that process, the program. I'm excited about it. So that concludes today's session, and have a great day.